Alright, so now we have the freedom to move around our hometown, or what's left of our hometown. Now this is where we can first get the very first Stardust in the game. If you head over to the gravestones over here, you'll see this middle one here. One from the left, one from the right, very first row. And here is our Stardust. I don't believe there's anything too much else we can do here. But what we can do is discuss why we're not going to start using Volcano, even though we literally just learned it. Even though Volcano, like if we were to select it, you can see how it changes colors to tell you which one is selected. Volcano, we require 3 successful addition strikes in order to pull it off. It deals a lot of damage, double what we normally would. Half again as much as, or 50%, whatever. You can clearly see 150 over 200. There's a difference here, but less SP growth. The idea is you want to utilize each addition that you're used to. So we want to try and get double slash maxed before we worry about Volcano, because once we move on to Volcano, we're going to kind of get out of practice with the other one, and vice versa. But even though we gained a level, we can go ahead and use one of our healing potions, which will recover 30 HP. And as we gain levels, that's going to go up as well. And it's nice, so these things only cost like 10 gold at the early stages of the game. So pretty cool that it's not just like a flat rate of like 10 health or something like that. Alright, so in order to move on, we want to head north. And we'll leave the town of Celes behind. Meanwhile, at Helena Prison, that would be Shauna. She was also the girl from the very first FMV. This guy here, Frugal, or is it Frugel? Fugel, whatever his name is. Pain in the ass when you fight him finally. Really don't like him very much. Alright, so now we find ourselves on the world map. The cool thing about this is by simply using the R2 or L2 trigger buttons on your controller, you can actually zoom out or zoom in as to where you are in the world. Pretty damn cool. So we can see we're just barely scratching the surface of where we're going to be going throughout this journey. And you can just kind of like run between each thing and choose whether or not to enter. We're going to head here to the forest. But before we do that, we're going to go ahead and save. You can only save, obviously, at save points and on the world map. Another thing you'll notice is the load times between everything is terribly slow. It takes several seconds just to open up the menu from the last screen we were at. But okay. So go ahead and enter the forest. And what we're going to be doing here is a little tutorial to kind of introduce us to the elements of the game, specifically magical elements and such. This guy over here is a merchant. Now he sells a fair bit of stuff. We have 5 healing potions, no body purifiers, so we're actually going to pick up 3 of them. We already have 3 burnouts. I don't really care about reducing our random our random encounters, so we'll just go ahead and pick up another 2 healing potions. And the one thing that's kind of a drawback is you can't pick multiple items. Like, you can't say I want 5 of this and get it all at once. You have to do it individually. I think that's due to the constraints of the 32 inventory item slots. So yeah, we are going to do a little tutorial. And this is as much for me as it is for you. It's been, again, well over a decade since I last played this game. As much as I enjoy the game, I just don't have occasion to play it all that often. So I'm a little rusty, but I'm going to get better as time goes on. Okay, so let's start with the attack item's damage. So this is where attack items are actually quite useful if you have a member on your team that has a strong magical attack. Okay, so there's a total of 8 elements. So we have fire, water, wind, earth, light, darkness, thunder, and non-elemental. And here's the odd thing. Fire and water, of course, are opposites. Wind and earth, I can understand being opposites. Light and darkness being opposites. But why is thunder and non-elemental not opposites? You would think that if you've already got, 75% of your elements that you've created, paired up as having opposites, why would you create 2 that just don't? It's kind of weird. I guess from some strategic and tactical point of view, that makes sense. I guess I answered my own question. Now this is important. The window color is how we're going to know what an enemy's element type is. Yep, they oppose each other. Thank you. Already figured it out. Yep, definitely got it. Let's talk about the actual elements themselves so we can get an idea of what we're looking for in terms of color when we're seeing an enemy and stuff, things of that nature. Yep, that's just a repeat. So, red for the window color tells us that our opponent is of a fire disposition. Therefore, water moves will be double as effective, fire moves will only be half as effective. Water is, of course, this kind of teal, kind of sea green, sea blue kind of color. Green blue is what I would call it. Whereas wind is an actual green. It's more of an emerald, in my personal opinion. Now this, in my opinion, doesn't look brown at all, even though that's what they're calling it. It almost looks like a gold color. But I can see why they'd go with brown, you know, earth, dirt, that kind of a concept. Now this is the one that makes truly no sense. Why is light yellow? I would imagine if darkness and light are complete opposites, that light would be like a white color and darkness be like a black color. Instead, what we have, light is yellow, and dark is more of a, this is a purple. A dark purple, not so much a dark blue. However, thunder is a true purple. And I guess in that case, what other color would it have possibly been? Black, I would have said, would probably be a good choice. Or really dark gray, because non-elemental is more of a light gray. So that would have been a decent polar kind of opposite kind of going on, except for the fact that they're not actually opposites in the actual calculations of the game's, you know, mechanics. Yeah, we already figured that out. Yep, we understand it. And the last thing to do is to talk about what a multiplying item is, which an example of that would be the burnout that we have. There's various items that use that type of magic that are not just fire-based, but other bases of the elements that you can acquire in the game. Now again, this is another one of those things where if you're not proficient at this, you might struggle trying to boost the damage of your thrown items, attack items damage. But I will tell you my secret, and whether or not it works for you, you can try it for yourself, see if it helps. I actually owe it to this game as to why I'm actually pretty decent at this type of rapid button pressing in games nowadays. So basically you want to pick the item that you want to use. In this case it would be a burnout. Sort of like what he's going to show you right here. When you use an attack item, you have typically the opportunity to repeatedly press the X button. The more times you hit X, the more the percentage increases, the more damage you do. Now, I'm going to do it, and hopefully I don't mess this up. Oh, duh. Alright, we're going to use... it also tells us what type of attack. I don't know what S attack is. Single attack, I would imagine. M would be multi, I'm assuming, or maybe something else. We'll see as we get along in the game. Flame type, obviously, is going to be a fire elemental kind of thing. And it's multi, which tells us that we're going to be able to boost its effectiveness once we use it. So there we go, over 220%. Now how did I do that? I didn't just repeatedly press the X button. I have a strategy, sort of a way of doing it. If you're sitting down playing the game, if you rest your controller on the top portion of your leg and you kind of hold it with one, I'm assuming you're right-handed because most controllers are in fact right-handed. By laying your index finger, or whatever finger you're most proficient with, I guess, not pressing the button but kind of hovering over it. If you apply just a little bit of downward pressure and you tense your arm up and you cause it to vibrate and shake by forcing the muscle to contract, you can actually shake your hand in such a way that with just a little bit of downward force you will repeatedly press the button you want to repeatedly press over and over very rapidly, thereby allowing you to pretty much increase the amount of damage you do. However, if it's by forcing your muscles to do that, it can hurt. Not physically of any kind of damage, but it does get exhausting after a while, and you will be a little sore. So take that with what you want to do. I think it's a lot easier than trying to tap it. Actually, tap it repeatedly. It's a nice little trick that I learned. No, thank you. That would be everything. We are done with the tutorial. Okay, so now we're going to do a little bit of leveling up just for our additions, which we're actually not too far. We're almost halfway for double slash. Yeah, only 13 more uses. I recommend not running around in here to get into battles. It'll give you an idea of what kind of enemies you might face, but not really beneficial for learning additions. I believe this is a burnout? No, healing potion, I'm sorry. And this little treasure chest box thing over to the right. We want to exit to the north. This area is particularly good because there's an enemy we might fight called the Trent. Right here. Pretty much for a good while, if you pull off successful double slashes, you won't kill it in one turn. So you're actually able to get 2 before you defeat it.
Yes. Double slash.
And considering that it's a fairly slow enemy, you might actually get 2 without taking any damage and killing it.
Yes. Double slash.
But of course, since we're low level,
Yes. Double slash.
3 uses, 1 battle. Pretty damn spiffy. And I believe the first time I attempted this, I kind of grinded out at least to level 4. Charm potion. But at the time, I did not know that I could have just come right into this area here to fight enemies that would have made leveling up double slash that much easier. Alright, that is a
Yes.
rooster of some sort, and it's a wind type. Yep, that... No, that's not wind.
Yes.
That is a... Yes, that's wind. I'm sorry. What was I thinking? That's a wind type enemy, so if you had some sort of earth-based spell, you'd be really good and effective against it. Obviously the Trent, or Treant, was earth, so wind would be effective against it. I believe the mice that we can fight are water-based, so fire is effective against them.
Yes.
And of course I messed that up. Got ahead of myself there.
Yes. Double lash.
You will have to get used to them calling out the name of their edition every single time you pull one off successfully.
Yes.
There is absolutely no way of turning that off. There's no way of increasing the text-based dialogue speed. There's no way of... There's very little in terms of actual configuration that you can have over the game. Which I suppose is why some people might feel the game's incomplete in some ways. That they kind of rushed it. You can obviously turn off vibration. I don't even have it turned on the DualShock here. Morphing, that's something we haven't gotten into yet. But basically that just shortens the animations, so you don't have to do it again. Note, I don't even know what that does, so I'm just going to leave it on whatever its default setting is. And since we're here, we might as well heal ourselves. Welcome to the stream, Alucard. I'm going to call you Alucard if that's alright. I played this game when it was brand new myself. A friend had it, I borrowed it from him. Got all the way to disc 4. At the time, you know, the internet wasn't exactly prevalent, or at least not with my family, so I didn't know that when I got stuck on one of the very, very end puzzles that I could just go online to figure it out. And of course I ended up stopped playing it, returned it, you know, needed the space on memory card back in the day, deleted it, and for years never owned it, never played it again. Picked it up maybe 10 years ago or so. Went ahead, beat the game finally. And you know, I've been itching to play through it again, so here I am. Despite some shortcomings that the game has, I enjoy it. You know, I think it's a pretty good example. Ah, okay, I see. Notes of the arrows above our heads. So basically, I can have it only show up partial of the time. I would imagine that's like anytime I enter into like an area that it would do that. And of course I do want them on. I see, so it's whenever you enter an area. Does select bringing them back up? No, sometimes games like that do that. Start? Nope. Alright, I'm just going to leave them on, that way I know where I am. Alright, how close are we actually to our next edition? At least 2 more battles. Card? Alright, that's fine. I always make it a point to ask the participating chat users in, on the streams that I have what they prefer to go by, just because a lot of them have a lot of, like yours has the X's and the zeros and stuff, so it's like I want to give you your proper nomenclature so that you're not, if you prefer to be called something, by all means, I'll definitely call you Card.
Yes. Double lash.
And as I've said in the past with other games, I really like the pre-rendered kind of background concepts that the early PlayStation 1 RPGs really excelled at. You don't really get that nowadays. I think it provides a much better aesthetic than, you know, everything having to be exactly rendered out and, you know, tangible.
Yes. Double slash.
And actually, since we finally got into a battle that had something like that, the next battle we get into, you can actually change the perspective of the battle with the shoulder buttons. I believe it's R2.